Hey, what's up, cats and kittens? And shout out to all my cerebralites. It's me, the Cerebral Diva, back with another episode of RealiTea. That's TEA because I give it to you piping hot. So grab a salsa, grab a cup, find a seat, gather around. Let's talk. Let's talk about season 9, episode 22, part 2 of the historic 4-part reunion of the Real Housewives of Atlanta. That is a mouthful. So before we get into this episode, a couple things I want to say. First thing I want to say is Bravo needs to cut it out. Based on episode 1 and episode 2, they could have definitely consolidated that into a single episode. But Bravo's like, okay, you hoes want, these astronomical salaries. We're going to make you work for them. We're going to make you earn it. So we're going to stretch this show out because if I'm not mistaken, The Real Housewives of Atlanta is the most watched of all of the franchises, all of the Real Housewives franchises. So it definitely behooves Bravo financially to stretch it, to sort of milk this cash cow, if you will. So I understand why they're doing it, but having seen episode 1 and episode 2, I feel like they're really just they have us on the hook and they know that. So they're baiting us, for 4 parts, and it's so unfair. I feel like to make it up to us, they should give us 2 episodes next week and let us out of school early. Come on, Bravo. So anyhow, I just wanted to say that. The second thing I want to say, now, I'm a huge Cynthia Bailey fan. Love Cynthia. Love. Cannot say enough positive things about her. I love what she brings to the show. I love that she's even keeled. I think that she is sort of she would be the Switzerland of nations on this show. She's sort of the liaison, the olive branch that sort of bridges the smalls and the talls. Well, the smalls and the talls really don't exist anymore. But anyhow, between the two groups, Cynthia is the one who's, and sort of Sheree as well, but not so much Sheree as Cynthia, that's able to sort of vacillate between all parties. So I love that she brings that to the show. I'm really not a fan of what she brings to the reunion other than her aesthetic. Cynthia is a beautiful woman. I love her styling. Same thing for Sheree. But I think that both of them should have been gifted Barney's gift cards, and they should have been allowed to go shopping for the first 2 episodes and come back maybe for part 3 and part 4. Bring Peter out. Bring the guys out. Let's hear about the dynamic between Cynthia and Peter now. And but they're really not adding a whole lot to this this reunion. Like, to me, it would have been better to see maybe Marlo or Shamia. I think that they probably would have added a little bit more juice, a little bit more oomph to these first 2 parts, because Cynthia is just so amiable and nice, and Sheree just really doesn't, she's really just the bone collector. So to me, she really doesn't add a whole lot to this reunion, but I'm glad to see her back on the show as a whole. So I really just wanted to say that before I moved on. So having said that, you guys, let's dive right into part 2 of this historic 4-part reunion. I feel so corny saying that. So it picks up right where episode 1 left off, obviously, and it's Kandi and Porsha going back and forth about The Apprentice, yada, yada, yada. Kandi gave her money, that's undeniable. Kandi also put Porsha in the play, that's undeniable. To me, Kandi has definitely tried to to really help Porsha expand and grow. And I don't think a woman who had a vendetta, a woman who was insecure in her own womanhood, would have been as helpful as Kandi appears to be. Now, just because you help someone doesn't necessarily mean that that person is sort of at your beck and call, or, forever your subordinate, if you will. But I don't think that Kandi necessarily plays that card, and at least not as I see it. But I can understand why Kandi would be upset. It's like, dude, I gave you money, and I don't give money to people who go out and make lies about me, to people, I'm giving you money, but you're trying to essentially stop me from making money by lobbing these allegations at me. So I'm with Kandi 100%. I'm just, to be honest with you guys, and for complete transparency, I'm Team Kandi. I'm Team Kandi. I'm sorry. like Porsha, I think Phaedra is a fantastic reader. I think Phaedra is hysterical. But I think in this particular instance, the person I most identify with is Kandi. Sorry. So anyhow, they talk to Porsha about accountability. They talk about the infamous, the coochie kick, if you will, that she gave Cynthia a few years ago. And also the incident with the scepter with Kenya. And they asked her if, in retrospect, hindsight is 2020, Porsha, do you regret your actions in those instances? And Porsha was like, yeah, I do, they didn't deserve that. And so I thought that was a really cool moment from Porsha, and really nice to see her sort of, stepping into her grown womanness in that particular instance. And what else? Oh, another thing, the word bully was used a lot tonight. A lot. And for me, when I think of a bully, I think of someone who is defenseless. I think of someone who doesn't have a way out. At any given moment, anyone on this show could nullify their contract, return the hundreds of $1,000s they receive every single season, and walk away from the bullying and return to obscurity if they choose to do so. You can't complain about being bullied when you're making hundreds of thousands of dollars a year. I think everyone on the show at one point in time has done some pretty vindictive things. There's a difference between being vindictive and being bullied. And I think that everyone on the show has been vindictive pretty much to someone else, another party on the show. So I really dislike the fact that they use the word bully so haphazardly when there are people in this world whose lives are really affected by bullying. And I think that when you use it so cavalierly, that it really does a disservice to the people who struggle with true bullying on a daily basis. What else was there? Okay, there was a little talk about Matt and Kenya. Matt's a creep to me. I'm sorry. Now I know a lot of people don't like Kenya, and that's fine. That's fine. But Matt just seems so opportunistic, especially since the two of them have broken up. You see him all over blogs. He's really trying to milk this situation for everything that it's worth. He's trying to play the victim. And word has it that there's a sex tape of some sort that's out about Matt. Now, I'm not going to lie. I would be the first in line to watch. Aside from his nose, Matt's nose drives me crazy. There's just something about his nose that I don't know, it just freaks me out. But as a whole, he's a very attractive man. I would have to look past the nose. I could definitely see why Kenya was attracted to him. And even hearing him speak, he appears to be very articulate. He appears to be very educated. So there's a lot that he brings to the table. But even with that, there's just something that's just so creepy about him that I just don't like. So they were talking about the violence between the relationship with Kenya and Matt, and how Kenya was able to somehow push through the relationship with Matt, even though he's shown violent tendencies, but for whatever reason, she wasn't able to do so with Porsha. Now, as a woman, we all know why she was able to put through. Do I really need to go into detail? We know why. And at the same time, I think that, Kenya was actually making excuses for Matt, saying, he never hit me. He was sort of attacking inanimate objects. He never put his hands on me. Now, that's one of the dumbest things I've ever heard from Kenya. I've always given Kenya credit for being intelligent, but that was probably one of the stupidest things that I've ever heard come out of her mouth. You don't make excuses for violence in any way, shape, or form. Violence typically happens, or abuse typically begins in stages. He might start off punching a wall. He might start out, kicking a headlight, or who knows what, knocking over a television. But it escalates. One day he pushes you. The other day the next day he grabs you by the arm. The next day he grabs you by the throat, and before you know it, you're wearing sunglasses. So, as far as I'm concerned, don't ever mitigate or make excuses for a man being violent. Don't make excuses for anyone being violent. So, I didn't really like the fact that she was trying to sort of make excuses for her staying on that. Look, if the D was good, the D was good. Just say that. Let's just call a spade a spade. I understand. I completely understand. If the D was good and you were willing to take one or two to the eye for the team, okay, fine. Then say that. But don't make excuses for violence, especially when you were calling your dad and all the things you did on the show about how afraid you were for him. And, so you really milked this whole I'm afraid and I'm scared of Matt thing on the show. But now you're sort of really downplaying the significance of his actions. So I really wasn't a fan of that. And then they talked to Sheree and asked Sheree, how she felt about saying that Kenya was egging Matt on, and she was trying to make excuses for that. But she did pretty much say exactly what Andy was calling her to the floor for. And given her history with Bob, it was really sort of reckless of her to say that. And I think that now that she's had some time to think about what she said, she definitely regrets letting those words come out of their mouth. It's hard because sometimes I think in the heat of the moment, people say what comes to mind and they really don't put a lot of thought behind it. And, hindsight, like I said earlier, is 2020. And, when you step away from a situation and you have a chance to evaluate it and extract emotions from it, you can say, okay, maybe I could have said that better, or maybe I could have said that differently. And I think that that's pretty much what Sheree was trying to convey tonight. Let's see what else. And so there was some more about Kenya and Matt, and Kenya was saying how Matt called her from a burner phone on Thanksgiving, and she basically blocked him and hasn't had contact with him. But I kind of have an eyebrow raise. I don't know if I'm completely buying into that, but if that's what she wants us to believe, then okay, so be it. So then there was more Phaedra and Apollo divorce drama. I personally think that Andy should have had Apollo call into the show and had Apollo on speakerphone. Like, we have a collect call from an inmate at the New Jersey State Federal Penitentiary. Like, that would have been like the coup de grace. That would have been the best moment of the night. Because the one thing about Phaedra to me is, I don't care what anyone says, how can you be married to a man, sleeping next to him every night, not go to his office, not really know what's going on in his life? As a married couple, you guys typically have to have your taxes prepared together. It just, something doesn't add up to me that she does not know what Apollo was into. Now, whatever she did, whoever she talked to, somehow she was able to finagle her way out of the situation, and kudos to her for that. But to me, I just refuse to believe that she has clean hands. And I would love to hear Apollo's sort of his angle, his position about what happened in that divorce, about the circumstances that led to his incarceration, and whether or not Phaedra really had pre-existing knowledge of what he was doing. I'm telling you guys, I know some of you guys are diehard Phaedra fans and diehard Porsha freaking frack fans, but to lay next to a man every single day. Now, we're not talking about a mistress that he has hiding someplace. We're talking about his job, something that you typically have to do at least 5 days a week. Something that you have to do 8 hours a day, something that most people talk about at the end of the day. Most couples do pillow talk. You talk about business, you talk about, goals, you talk about earnings, what you guys are going to do with your finances in the future. So it just doesn't add up to me that she wasn't aware of what was going on, how this money was coming in. And that as an attorney, she wouldn't do her due diligence in terms of investigating what he was telling her, especially given his past history as a criminal. So it wasn't like, he went from Boy Scout to white collar criminal. He had already had a history of it. So most logical people would already sort of have their antennas out, sort of feeling, and listening to see if there was something that was happening surreptitiously. What else do I want to talk about? Let's see here. Then there was Phaedra once again. She's sort of talking about the Johnny incident with Johnny suing Kandi and how she really didn't have anything to do with it, blah, 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 blah. And that's so crazy to me. I mean, it's not like we didn't see this unfold on television. I saw it. I'm sure she's seen it by now. Kandi's seen it. You definitely were stirring the pot. Definitely. I mean, you were adding ingredients into that soup without question. So why not just as a woman, and this is like, I pray one day that I see someone on the show say, I was pissed off, I was angry, I did it out of spite, and I shouldn't have done that. Can we hear one person just step up and just wholeheartedly accept accountability and just realize as human beings, sometimes we're fallible and sometimes we get in our feelings and we do things that we regret later. It happens all the time. But instead of accepting accountability, people continue to make excuses and sort of try to circumnavigate what the real truth is and the truth that we all see. So there was that. I'm trying to think of what else happened in this episode that was of interest. You know, they talked a little bit about Mama Joyce going up and sort of trying to get in Kandi's business, in Phaedra's business, and about the whole bomb threat and what have you. And asking Kandi how she felt about it and does she think Mama Joyce crossed the line. And definitely, now as much as I like Kandi, I have to call, in the words of Iyanla Vanzant, I have to call a thing a thing. There is just something about Mama Joyce that just makes me uncomfortable. There is something wicked just about her face and her energy that just seems, I don't know, like she just has the face of a woman who would beat her kids with wire hangers. You know what I mean? Maybe that's why Kandi's afraid to speak up. Like she came from an abusive household where her mother, if you guys have ever read that V.C. Andrews novel called Flowers in the Attic, Mama Joyce to me would be the woman in that book who traps the kids in the attic and feeds them arsenic laced cookies. I don't know. There's just something I don't like about her. It's her energy. She's messy and I don't know. And I just don't like her. I'm gonna try to stop there because I really don't want to talk about someone's mother. But yeah. And if you watch the show, you definitely probably see even her face. Like she should be a wicked witch on every Halloween. She just has sort of that witchy face that I don't know, like I don't know if they ever needed a villain in a movie, she has a villainous face. Just yeah. So as much as I say I'm not going to talk about her, I've talked about her for about 2 minutes. So we're going to move on from Mama Joyce. What else? Then they were talking about. Then Phaedra sort of chimed in and said something about if she wants to investigate, if Mama Joyce wants to investigate something, maybe she should try investigating why the OLG restaurant is not opening. And Kandi was sort of chiming back, saying, well, it's opening this week, yada, yada, yada. And suggested that Phaedra not calling any of her cronies at City Hall, maybe like the city health inspector, the building inspector, and have them sort of throw a hitch in the OLG gang process. What else? I'm trying to think if there's anything else interesting that happened tonight. Like I said, to me, this episode 2 was sort of a dud. It wasn't a complete bust, but I need more from you. And so I'm thinking next week is when we're going to start getting down to the nitty gritty. I think I've seen clips already of Shamia showing up on the show, and she's having a heated exchange with Phaedra. So, yeah, and maybe they'll surprise us and bring Marlo out. Even though I'm not a huge Marlo fan, I definitely need a jolt. I need something to sort of wake me up, because right now they're lulling me to sleep, and I'm not loving it. So, all right, you guys. So that's it for this recap of Real Housewives of Atlanta, Season 9, Episode 22, Part 2 of the historic 4-part reunion. Remember to tune in next week for Part 3. What else do I want to tell you guys? There was something else I wanted to say, but for whatever reason, it's escaping me. It's pretty late over here. So I'm going to close it out as always by saying remember to live better, love harder, and think smarter. Also remember to like, comment, and subscribe, or dislike if you choose. Remember to follow me across all social media platforms: Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, Snapchat. I'm Cerebral Diva on all social media platforms, spelled just as it's spoken. If you can spell, then you certainly can find me. I will talk to you guys again soon. Have a great day.